Don't forget, this persecution is being done by the same weaponized agencies that for 7 years have been running illegal psychological warfare campaigns against the American people, much as if they were trying to destabilize a foreign country.
Wow. This got very little attention, but I do believe this is happening. Psychological warfare, we know it. We've called it. It's famous when it's used against America. Who remembers or heard of Tokyo Rose? That woman, an American, oh, by the way, who took to the microphone to say awful things to American troops and to get their hopes down. Oh, Yankee, go home. You're not going to win this war. What's your wife up to? Stuff like that. Can also be more benign, like handing out literature to Iraqis about, well, how great the occupation is going to be, or dropping leaflets from an airplane over Afghanistan with similar messages. Sometimes we overpromised in those messages. Look, psychological operations is something the military is, have all kinds of formalized programs. They've been teaching this stuff for years, and yes, it involves deception. Psy-Ops soldiers strategically influence and deceive. This is a U.S. military website. Psychological operations soldiers help sway opinions and actions of foreign governments, foreign groups, and individuals. Also, psychological warfare requires adaptability, resilience, and problem solving to be successful. It's great when it's used against foreign governments. Is it being used here? Take a look at this.
Trained in persuasive techniques, Psy-Ops soldiers use their skills to change attitudes, behaviors, values, beliefs.
Well, I'm not saying the U.S. Army did it, but the government did it. The government was involved in censoring and playing a psychological warfare game on all of us regarding Hunter Biden's laptop. Some of them actually even signed their name to that dopey letter, which was a deceptive tactic. Absolutely straight out of the Psychological Operations Handbook. That laptop, you couldn't even talk about it on social media. The oldest newspaper in the country, the New York Post, was kicked off of Twitter. They couldn't post anything after October 14th, before Election Day. Now, one of the big giveaways that there was a psychological warfare campaign in effect was General Milley. Back to the Army for a moment. Remember this? When he walked across the street with President Trump, and he decided to make a super-duper big deal about it.
Been there. My presence in that moment and in that environment created a perception of the military involved in domestic politics.
He should not have been there, he says. With the President of the United States, this is part of a psychological warfare campaign. Just as he apologizes for the appearance of being involved in domestic politics, he then weighs in on every single domestic political hot-button issue of our time.
I am outraged by the senseless and brutal killing of George Floyd. What we are seeing is the long shadow of our original sin in Jamestown 401 years ago. We are still struggling with racism, and we have much work to do. Unspoken and unconscious bias have no place in America, and they have no place in our armed forces. And we should all be proud that the vast majority of protests have been peaceful. We must ensure fairness and equity at all key gateway selection boards, including promotion, command, and war call. Be inclusive. Make a commitment to seek out and surround yourself with those who don't look like you.
How woke can you get? How woke can you get, General? Look, here's the thing. They've worked themselves up into a frenzy that MAGA somehow is a domestic threat. It's not, but that lie has been told so much. Some of them believe it. Some of them know it's a lie. This is what psychological warfare looks like today, what you're seeing right there. Tokyo Rose, that was obvious. But our people aren't good at calling out psychological warfare. How would they even know? I want to show you a picture of the White House press corps from 1983, the White House briefing room. There's President Reagan. But notice anything about the first row, the front row there. These are, well, there's Sam Donaldson, Bob Plant, Helen Todd. These are people who are seasoned, who are older. Yeah, they may lean a little left, some of them, but they actually remembered World War II. What did today's reporters remember? What does she remember? The congressional reporter over there at MSNBC, right? So back then we had Cronkite, Walter Cronkite. Again, he leaned left, no doubt about it. And today we have Caitlin Collins. The journalists of today are celebrated for their youth and inexperience. She's 31 years old, the it girl of CNN. That's part of the appeal. This plagues America, this lack of experience. You know, we used to actually depend on these people. We can't anymore. Barack Obama and his kind of mind-meldy friend, Ben Rhodes, talked about this a lot. Ben Rhodes was a senior aide to Barack Obama. They were very, very tight. And I am no fan of either of them, but Ben Rhodes said something rather insightful about the media. Take a look at this. The average reporter we talk to is 27 years old, and their only reporting experience consists of being around political campaigns. That's a sea change. They literally know nothing. They literally know nothing. How about that, huh? And it's true.
Now we reduce the distance to our final destination by 90% every 10 seconds, each step much smaller than the one before. An outer layer of cells. As we close in, we come to the double helix itself.
What's up, guys? It's your boy, Benny. Donald Trump went there this week, and I guess that's a permanent headline. You can always say Donald Trump actually literally went there. He said that Hillary Clinton would be arrested to her face. He said that the Iraq war was a lie, that weapons of mass destruction was a manufactured lie by our intel agencies in order to get us to go into war in Iraq and in Afghanistan. That we were psyoped by our own intelligence agencies. And he said so again. Donald Trump, when he was arrested, after his arrest, went to his club at Bedminster in New Jersey and said that America is experiencing psychological warfare operations against its own people. Something that we have often been warning about on this program, and something that was illuminated for us and seized upon by, of course, the great Greg Kelly. Now, nobody else would have the balls to actually do this, but Greg Kelly, I know him from my time at Newsmax. He is a fantastic, fantastic reporter, commentator, patriotic individual, and somebody who would definitely pick up on something like this, because he himself, as a veteran, he himself is somebody who affects quite a few people, and his ratings are through the roof right now with the implosion, the murder-suicide of Fox News. Well, Greg Kelly's going to understand exactly what the federal government is doing. What they're trying to do is to create a psychological projection of Donald Trump. The projection, of course, that they've always had in their own fever dreams of Donald Trump being this evil, bad, orange man, bad criminal. You can see that fever dream on full display in the deep state-owned media. The deep state owns media outlets and writes scripts. Did you know this? They literally huddle with reporters in order to create and manufacture scripts to read to the American people. Now, luckily, most people tune out. Not a lot of people tune into MSNBC, but if you did tune into MSNBC, this is what you heard for the entirety of the Trump presidency.
Are still every day dealing with this question of whether or not our president was chosen, not just because of a foreign intelligence operation. We're grappling with this existential question as to whether his campaign was part of that foreign intelligence operation.
My God.
Russia, Vladimir Putin, Russia hates Russia, Putin, Russia, Moscow, Russian, pro-Russian, Russian,
So you'd think that these guys who are so obsessed with Russia would actually study, perhaps, some people who have defected from Russia and come here, like former KGB agents, and talked about how we are using psychological operations against our own people. Luckily, we actually have on tape a former KGB agent who was the master of the craft coming here and warning us about this very moment. Somebody who should probably be taught in every single American classroom and studied by every single independent-minded American who doesn't want to be absorbed or taken into by those who wish to lie to us, to project something that is untrue, a warped, bizarro world, untethered to reality, something that is created in a fever dream in order to control you. Have a listen to the masters of the craft and understand that you're being lied to and break out of the matrix.
Ideological subversion is the slow process of psychological warfare to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. Exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, he will refuse to believe it.